Narayana. Yamuna Tira Vanachare, Yamuna Tira Vanachare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Hari Hari Bo. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki. Shri Raj Maharaj ki. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnanandhanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasa Gora Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhobhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham bande shri gurun dhinataranam. So devotees, welcome to this cleanliness part 2. We one time had gathered for cleanliness part 1. Any of you were not there at that time? Who was not there? 1, 2. The Bhakti Sadhana was not there. So part 1 was very essential. We are especially presenting this. It should be presented from the very beginning. Maybe someday we can have a little gathering for Bhakti Sadhana. But it's extremely important for those who are studying Bhakti Shastri because Srila Prabhupada planned Bhakti Shastri as a training for Brahmanas. And Brahmana means Shuchi. Brahmana means Suchi. Suchi means clean. That is one of the great characteristics of a Brahmana, that he is clean and always endeavors to remain clean. So we saw various aspects at that time, mostly how Brahmanas take advantage of proper time, place, always concerned with taking bath. Yes, always concerned with taking bath, take bath many times. And we studied the contaminating agents coming in touch with. We have to purify ourselves. And this was especially because the Brahmanas are worshipping the Lord. So especially when we are going to be engaged in puja, then we should be very clean. And otherwise also, always remain clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So it is a very important factor in the life of a devotee to remain clean, to learn what is cleanliness. So we spoke of so many things, how to remain clean, and we also saw that contamination travels by touch. Anything which is clean, which comes in touch with something unclean, naturally becomes unclean, unless it is a powerful purifying agent. So, like the sun, for example, people pass stool all over the world, and the sun rays come in touch with the stool everywhere, but do not become contaminated. The power of the sun is such that it is a purifying agent, and rather the stool becomes purified. So today we are going to see a few more things. We are going to talk today of the purifying agents and a little bit about cleanliness while cooking, which is one of the important aspects of deity worship, and which is applies to everyone, whether you worship or not. Cooking is always there. And then we are going to look more towards internal cleanliness. So let us see this cleanliness while cooking. Important for everyone. So the Vaishnavas do not just cook for themselves, they cook for Krishna. So therefore, these rules of cleanliness will apply. Naturally, you can apply these things according to your capacity, according to time, place, circumstance. It is not always possible to be completely Brahminical, but we are giving this presentation so that you have a chance to move towards maximizing cleanliness. So while cooking, first of all, while cooking in general, the body should be clean. If you are cooking for deities in the temple, the kitchen standards are the same as the altar standards. So many times new devotees, they are taken into the deity kitchens and they immediately learn cleanliness. Deity kitchen means full clean, having taken bath and wearing clean clothes, clothes which have been washed, which have dried, if possible, in the sun, which have been dried by the sun, by the wind, and which have been kept in a clean place, if you remember that. And it has to be kept in a clean place. So at home or on your own, you may decide your standard. But if you have deities, then this is a good standard to keep, that before cooking, one should take a bath and one should wear clean clothes. And Srila Prabhupada was very particular that cooking should be done in a clean place. So when we enter the kitchen should have been kept clean the day before. After cooking, everything should have been cleaned. If by chance we enter a kitchen which is not clean, what to do? Not start complaining and cursing the previous person, which is usually what people do, but start cleaning immediately. Start cleaning and establish the clean kitchen. Everything, the sink, the pot, the counters, everything should be clean. The floor, there are different aspects of the kitchen. The floor is also to be kept clean. The counters are to be kept clean. The sink is to be kept clean. Of course, the pots have to be kept clean. If there is a fridge, which is a modern invention, it should also be kept clean. So everything should be sparkling clean. Even the storeroom should be kept properly, orderly, clean. We should know where everything is. In some kitchens, you just can't find anything, except for the person who cooks there and who is somewhat aware. Otherwise, any other person cannot find anything. So this is not a Brahminical kitchen. A Brahminical kitchen has everything in its place. And anyone who comes there can understand the spices are here, the grains are there, the vegetables are this side, the pots are there, the spoons are there, the knives are there. Everything should be in a proper order. And even if the kitchen is clean, just like when we come into the deity room to do seva, the first thing we do is to take a cloth and wipe the surfaces. Wipe the surfaces, wipe the counters. So the same is done in the kitchen. Before starting, one wipes the counters, because who knows what has happened in the night, what has happened before we came, some cockroach, some little gentle rat, somebody has been walking, some lizard, something has happened that we are not aware of. So we first prepare everything clean. Before that, of course, like before doing any service, one should offer obeisances. This is a main important thing, and this is part of internal awareness, that upon arriving in the kitchen, one should first offer obeisances unto the spiritual master, and begin fixing one's mind on cooking favorably for the pleasure of Krishna. And in this way, our activity becomes spiritualized. Karma means I come into the kitchen, I make breakfast for myself. And then before I eat, I offer it to Krishna. But cooking for Krishna is different. Means I come in the kitchen, I offer myself in service to the Lord, and then I cook for him. I cook for him, I offer it to him. That's the main concern. And once all this has been done, then I accept the remnants. This is the Vaishnava consciousness. It's a different consciousness. And we must work on that consciousness because most of the time, hungry. So when we work for the deities, it is very easy because we are only going to cook for Krishna. But when we cook for ourselves, it's a little bit more tricky. And that we are actually cooking for ourselves. But we can train ourselves to, first of all, enter this devotional mood before we cook, so that we actually are going to prepare something for Krishna to enjoy. And then we will also take part in those preparations. So, first purify our consciousness, then start cleaning the kitchen or at least wiping. And then we start cooking. The pots, of course, should be clean. The pots and any utensils that we use for cooking should be only used for cooking. They should not be used for eating. These are two different departments, eating and cooking, two different departments, totally different. One is suchi, one is muchi. So we do not keep them together. There are different things we do not keep together. Muchi and suchi, prasad and bhoga. So these things have to be separated. In the kitchen, muchi does not enter. So those who are setting up kitchens, always keep this in mind when you build a house in the future. You build a kitchen, you build a house. You have to remember this, that anything which has to do with eating is in a different place. It's not in the kitchen. And of course, you may say, oh, this is very high standard. That is, in one sense, true, but it is actually a regular standard for those who are worshipping the Lord. This is the difference between a Vaishnava and a common person. And if you live in a place where this has not been established, then you have to devise some system. Have two sinks, for example, which you use separately, differently. Or make an arrangement, make a sink on your balcony, make some arrangement. You will feel so much better as soon as you separate these two functions. So, but at least whatever is used for Krishna, that is only used for him. The offering plate cannot be one of the eating plates. The offering plate is very sacred. It's part of the Lord's altar paraphernalia. You have to select a place in the kitchen where you keep it very reverentially. And always it should be clean. And the pots, whatever, as I said, should always be kept clean. If something has happened that contaminated the kitchen, what can have happened? Like somebody badly cut himself and blood has gone to the place, or somebody, somehow some stool entered the kitchen, something dirty entered the kitchen, then the purification of the kitchen usually is done with cow dung. Cow dung, sprinkling of Gangajal, together with the chanting of mantras. So we purify the kitchen. We cannot just carry on. And if we cut ourselves while cooking, then immediately one has to leave the kitchen, one has to sort it out. If you have to wait until the flow of blood stops, eventually you may have to take bath. So try to keep the kitchen clean. We are cooking for Krishna. Now, most important, what Srila Prabhupada has taught us when we are cooking is no tasting. So this is something new for those who come to Krishna consciousness from regular families who do not follow this kind of standard. Usually the cooks, what they do, as they keep cooking, they keep tasting. Did I put enough salt? Let's try it. Is it cooked? Let's try it. Uh, so this is a habit, naturally, because I'm cooking for myself to my own taste. And there is no idea of who is the enjoyer. Or rather, there is a clear idea. The enjoyer is me. The enjoyer is me. But for Vaishnavas, the enjoyer is not me. The enjoyer is Krishna. We are cooking for him. So he should get it first, not us. And even for knowing whether there is enough salt or this or that, no, we do not taste what is going to be offered to Krishna. Cooking should be done in full awareness and consciousness. One time, Srila Prabhupada said that devotion in cooking means make sure you put the right amount of salt. That is your devotion. This is where the devotion is. That you are concerned, not that you just cook anything and throw it in the pot. No. One has to be very, very aware, very conscious how much salt I am putting at the time of cooking, and rather put less than more. And learn that certain preparations like grains, they take more salt. And some preparations like shark, for example, when you cook them, they shrink. So don't put the salt in the beginning, because otherwise it will be very salty. So in this way, the sugar, the salt, the spices, they should be put with great awareness. But tasting, no. Tasting is done when? After offering. And that at that time you can taste and see what is happening. And if the salt has been forgotten, sometimes we forget the salt in some preparation. Some salt can be added before it is served. What purpose for that? So that the devotees do not start thinking negatively about the prasadam. Turn against the prasadam. Think negatively about the prasadam. Another thing is not only no tasting, but also no smelling. That halava. We enjoy. We enjoy with the tongue, we enjoy with the nose, we enjoy with all our senses. But the food that we are preparing is not meant for ourselves. It is meant for Krishna. So you may say, well, it's a little difficult when you are in the kitchen and not to smell. Every time you breathe, you smell. But usually the cooks are very much busy. They don't really bother like what the smell. There are so many smells. But the idea is that you don't. So, and then something which is something that Srila Prabhupada has taught us, which is very, very interesting, and which many people do not at all follow because they may not even heard about it, is that the kitchen is clean in the beginning, it's clean while cooking, and it is clean after cooking. Not that it's clean in the beginning, and then it grows into a complete mess. And then in the end, you're too tired, you call someone for cleaning. So this is not the style that Srila Prabhupada introduced. I was very fortunate to be trained by a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and we read it in the Lilamrita also. We have heard and read and taken training from Prabhupada disciples, how Srila Prabhupada instructed his disciples to cook. I was fortunate to be trained by somebody who is today known as Govinda Swami, who used to be known as Ayodhyapati Das, in Europe, where I joined. So one day he visited the temple where I was staying, and he taught these things, that you clean as you cook. First of all, everything should be clean from the beginning. And then suppose you chop some vegetables. You chop some vegetables, right? And then, you've got the peels and all these. And you put them in the pot, you start cooking. No. And then the vegetables just remain, the peels just remain there until the end of the cooking. No, not like this. You chop, you clean, you put the vegetables here. Before you proceed to the cooking, you clear the cuts. You clear that. Or you prepare some dough, or you prepare, for example, you make pakoras. You're going to make pakoras. So you prepare the batter. And then after some time, you make the pakoras, you fry and everything. And what you do with the pot, which had the butter, dump it in the sink. No, that's not what Prabhupada would do. You don't dump it in the sink, you clean it. You clean it right away. So you may say, oh my God, it's going to take so much longer to cook. No, not so much longer to cook. Because at some point you go like, oh, I need that ball to do something else. Where is it? It's in the sink. It's in the sink and it's messed up. So the knife should not hang around everywhere. It should be in its place. You take it from there, you use it, clean it, put it back. Anything you use, you clean it as you go. This is what Srila Prabhupada has instructed us. And it feels very good to cook in that way. Again, which mode of nature could this be? Goodness. This is goodness. Otherwise, just throw it in the sink. This is tamas. And rajas, let me go fast. I dump everything in the sink until I cannot even access the tap. It's so full. No, at the end of the cooking, someone who follows that standard, there are only a few things left in the kitchen to clean. That's the pots which have the preparations. Everything else is already clean. There is no need of a second party to come and start cleaning the kitchen. So please try to practice this, because this is the way that Srila Prabhupada taught. There are pictures of Srila Prabhupada cooking. Have you seen? He looks so stylish, very stylish, and he's cooking. And you don't see any mess around. So Prabhupada cooked like this, and that is the way. And kitchens in the past, there was not so much opulence that you have like 20 pots that you can mess. No, you have 2 pots. So first you cook with this one, then you clean it, then you cook with that one, then you clean it. So instead of increasing the kitchen paraphernalia, better learn how to clean while cooking. And keep washing the hands. Don't be shy with washing hands. As we said, while cooking, we should not contaminate the hands with any of the bodily fluids. So if it happens somehow, some perspiration is there, you have to remove the perspiration. Some thing somewhere, you couldn't help it, you started scratching somewhere, you touch some parts of the body, then immediately the hands have to be kept clean. So keep washing the hands. The vegetables and everything that we use, it should be also washed very nicely. And in general, there are different standards, but if you take some kind of village standards, so they'll bring the vegetables. They are not clean, means they are muddy or whatever. And what they do is they start chopping them. Chop. And after chopping, they may wash them. So it is better to first clean the vegetables, then chop them. And if necessary, then clean them again, which should be very clean. And if something falls on the ground, this happens while cooking, piece of vegetable falls off the ground, the spoon, the knife, something falls on the floor. So what to do? We pick it up and we wash it. And we continue to use it. Unless the piece of vegetable or has fallen on my feet or anybody's feet. If something has fallen on the foot, it is not offerable. Whatever it may be. Or maybe it is that one ingredient that you spent 3 weeks to find and suddenly it fell on your foot. Well, too bad. It is gone. It cannot be offered. So follow this rule strictly. Whatever has touched the feet of any person, we cannot use it in the cooking. This will be very disrespectful to Krishna. This would be an offense. What else? Ingredients also should be clean. So this means, number one, that they should not be contaminated. In general, as we cook for Krishna, we avoid buying anything which is pre-prepared on the market. And this especially applies to the powdered spices. The powdered spices, you don't know what's inside truly, because the businessman, they are after money. Spices are expensive. Spices are very expensive. So therefore, you do a little mixing. But mix with what? We don't know. On Ekadasi, you absolutely cannot use powdered spices because they may be mixed with flour, grains, so that the quantity increases. And they can also be mixed with spices that we do not use, such as onion, garlic. So learn how to make your own powders, learn how to make your own mixtures. And this is not very difficult. It is also there in the cookbooks. We have many Hare Krishna cookbooks, vegetarian cookbooks, devotional cookbooks, from where we can learn how to prepare the spices. And you can also learn, many times people are just using spices in terms of so many powders. But the spices can also be used whole. They can be used whole. And the flavor of the whole spices is very, very wonderful. So clean ingredients means, for example, the grains should not be having worms. You always have to check. Neither the vegetables should have worms. If they have worms, then you cut out the pieces, which you discard the pieces which are infested. And sometimes you have to discard the entire pieces. And of course, there is no need to cut here, cut there, and then cut the worms into pieces. Just let them live their own life and choose another piece of vegetable. Cook something else instead of chopping all these poor people into pieces just to get a little bit of vegetable in the middle. So like this. And then the pure ingredients, make an effort to find things which are natural, or which are not mixed with other things. The ghee is an important ingredient for cooking, and originally ghee means cow ghee, nothing else. It means cow ghee, but nowadays it is very, very difficult to find. So make an effort to find some ghee so that you can cook properly, because many of the brands on the market, you can research them, they are not even vegetarian. Either they are mixed with vegetable fat or they are not even vegetarian, which is means that whatever we cook becomes actually unofferable, becomes contaminated. If it is done out of ignorance, what to do. And there are certain circumstances in which we cannot do anything about it, just as but we cannot do anything about it in the short term, but in the long term, we can do. For example, when Srila Prabhupada was in America in the early days, they started cooking. And then gradually the devotees, started understanding what is pure, what is impure. And they figured that, for example, the refined sugar in the US was unclean. It was mixed, it was polished to become white with some remnants of slaughterhouses. So it's an unclean item. The ghee, unclean. The milk can also be unclean. So many things are unclean. But at that time, Prabhupada said that Krishna wants sugar in the halava. We cannot make halava without sugar. But then what is the long-term solution? Be connected to a Hare Krishna farm, where the devotees who are grihasthas can live very peacefully and can grow the vegetables and the grains and the spices and the fruit that will be used in the deity worship, in the farm and in the temples, that will feed the devotees and that will be used for food distribution and so on. So this is the long-term vision. That if we actually want something clean, in this age, we don't find it on the market. I had a devotee who is, he used to work for a Korean company. And so sometimes he would go to Korea for his work. And he would leave with a huge suitcase full of boga, full of things to cook while he was there. And he was always, while returning, he was always, so tired of his cooking because he could only cook whatever he had taken. And I asked him, I said, aren't there any vegetables in that country? He said, yes, there are vegetables, but usually they sprinkle them with some kind of animal products just to make them shine. Or the vegetable market is so much mingled, it's all mixed up with the fish market and this market and that market. Everything is mixed and everything is contaminated. All the vegetables are not unclean. So this is the situation that one meets in the world. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada instructed us that we should develop our own growing of the food. And even if we live in a small place, there are ways to somehow produce something. These are instructions, of course, for the grihasthas. But also, when we establish temples and all, we have to look for the proper supplies for the kitchen. So I won't say anything more. You get some idea. Any question about these things? Yes, Subha?
Are slippers allowed in the kitchen, like the folks they can?
What is allowed in the kitchen?
Slippers.
Sleepers. Sleepers. Well, see, traditionally, there are no much sleepers in the kitchen, but you have to see that traditionally the Brahminical culture flourishes where the coconut trees grow and the banana trees grow, means it's in a warm environment. But when you start spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, then it's not like that. And in general, also because in the past, the environment was clean also. People would walk barefoot everywhere. But the atmosphere was more clean, whereas today the atmosphere is not clean. As we say again and again, there is non-veg everywhere, there is dirt everywhere, so much dirt, so much stool, so much sewage, so much everything, that even if you walk barefoot everywhere, once you enter the kitchen, unless you have a system to wash your feet, you are going to contaminate the kitchen. And so we can wear indoor shoes in the kitchen. It is allowed, it is possible to do that, and this was established in many of Prabhupada's kitchen, the kitchen shoes. But of course, those who are cooking should be mindful, not that you wear the kitchen shoes outside. Then you have wasted, everything, because shoes collect all the dirt, and so shoes are not brought into the temple, they are not brought into the kitchen. But you can use special kitchen shoes when you are in the kitchen. So this is many times very practical. And sometimes in the kitchen everything becomes wet, and the cooks have their feet day after day for hours and hours in the wet floor, and they start developing fungus and different things on their feet. So the environment is very different nowadays. Before it was a little different, the environment. So no harm. Don't take them outside, and keep them clean. And that means there has to be some place somewhere where you once in a while wash these shoes. In the past, it was very common to wash the feet, but nowadays it is not very common. It's difficult to establish. It is a bit difficult to establish. There are still temples, even if I remember Tirupati, where as you come inside, there is like a stream at the entrance, and everybody has to walk through the stream. So automatically everybody washes their feet. Right. Okay. So let us look at some other things. We were talking, I said we would talk of purifying agents. Purifying agents, water, of course, is the main purifying agent. And out of all the waters, there is one water which is very special. This is Ganga. The Ganga water, which is divine water, which originates from beyond the universe and has touched the lotus foot of the Lord as it entered the universe. So this Ganga water is always pure and clean, and it can be used for purification. And other things, so clothes, for example, are washed with water. Dry cleaning, you heard of dry cleaning? Very dirty. Dry cleaning is clean with petrol or some other type of thing. Dry cleaning is not cleaning. And so, in general, as Vaishnavas, we avoid clothes and things which cannot be washed with water. Everything should be washed with water. And we heard that the clothes, what material are we supposed to wear? You remember? Cotton, silk, woolen. So we wear these things. So this is washable. And in the kitchen, as we were talking, please avoid absolutely synthetic cloth. Not only it is not considered pure for cooking, but secondly, it is very dangerous because kitchen means fire. So if the fire catches on a piece of cotton, it will burn slowly and you can somehow extinguish the fire. But if the fire catches on a piece of synthetic cloth, which is basically plastic, it will burn very fast and it will stick to the skin and there will be a disaster. So no fun, no at all. It is not nice. Other purifiers, the air and the wind. Some things we don't wash, but we, carpets, for example, we may beat the carpets and then you put them in the sun. And by the power of the sun, the power of the wind, they will become fresh. The clothes also should be dried outside, preferably, unless there is some special circumstances like the rainy season, nothing dries outside. You have to dry inside. Otherwise, outdoor drying is very necessary. So when we purify, for example, the cloth, number one, it goes in the water. Number two, it takes the air, the wind. And number three, it takes the rays of the sun. So the third purifier is the fire. So there's water, there is air, there is the fire. The fire coming in from the sun, the heat of the sun, is going to purify everything. The fire is also used for very high purification also when you are going to, for example, you want to use a needle to perform some little surgery or something, you can put it in the fire. And the fire will burn most of the, let's say, bacteria. The earth is also something which is cleansing. But of course, it has to be taken in a clean place. So you can take earth from a clean place where people don't usually walk all over, throw garbage. And then you can take this earth and you can use it for cleansing paraphernalia in general, for cleansing the body. We said also clay is used for cleansing the body. Then we have our famous cow dung, which is a purifier mentioned in the Vedas. It purifies both grossly, physically, and subtly as well. Purifies the mind. It pacifies the mind. It takes away all negative energy. Then we have time. Time is also a purifier. You can, if you have something has been left alone for a long time, you can consider it clean. Time purifies everything. It also purifies our mind. Sometimes when something happens, we suffer from a trauma. Sometimes we cannot forget what has happened. But after 10 years, it is gone. Who was the purifier? Time. Time is the purifier. So we also can use time as a purifier. Mantras, that is purification by sound, and this is used in deity worship. We use mantras to purify the paraphernalia. And these mantras, we will see, they are also one of the main agents for subtle purification, for the purification of the mind. And then another thing is knowledge. Knowledge is also a purifier. So with these last two items, or mantras and knowledge, we are coming into this area of internal cleanliness. Internal cleanliness, it means with the cleanliness of the subtle body. We have two coverings over our own self. The self is the soul, pure and uncontaminated. It is never contaminated, but it becomes covered by the gross elements and by the subtle elements. And in this material world, it is not possible actually to remain clean, neither physically nor mentally, on the subtle platform. It is not possible to remain clean. Physically, there is dust, there is so many contaminating agents, so we cannot remain clean. Cleanliness means again and again and again and again you must purify. And especially on the subtle platform, in the Bhagavatam, we find the description of the age of Kali, full of contamination. And in the 12th canto, we hear these words that in this age of Kali, The age of Kali is an ocean of faults. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan. O king, says Sukadeva Goswami, that, Sutta Goswami, in this age is an ocean of faults. So we are constantly associating with something contaminated. And therefore, in order to remain free from contamination, we have to take out an umbrella all the time, like when we go in the rain. And the umbrella is the chanting of the holy name. So this is the main purifying agent for us. Srila Prabhupada says for internal cleanliness, one must chant Hare Krishna and one must think of Krishna. This is what is going to purify the mind. We will read a couple of things that Prabhupada has spoken or written here. He says, cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. I think we read that last time. For external cleanliness, Prabhupada says it means taking a bath. But for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant his name. Another thing Prabhupada says here, cleanliness refers to both inner and outer states. Both are important, but internal purity is more important. Lord Chaitanya declared that the congregational chanting of the holy names is the best process for cleaning the mind. All material concepts, such as identifying the self as the body, this is the first contamination, that we identify ourselves with the body. Seeing dualities in the world, this is also subtle contamination. We are talking of subtle contamination here. For gross contamination, we talked of blood, pus, mucus, urine, perspiration. We talk of these things. Now, what is internal contamination? First is identification with the body. And then there is seeing dualities in the world. We have an illusory, let's say, vision. Instead of seeing that everything is the energy of Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna, and it is one, actually, energy that emanates from him, and that everything in this world and everything that happens to us is actually the plan of Krishna, and it is therefore favorable. No, we start seeing, not in relation to Krishna, but we see things in relation to ourselves. So, good and bad, it immediately appear, good and bad. What's good for me is what feels good. And what's bad for me is what feels bad, right? But this is not the case, actually. Austerity doesn't feel that good, but it is good. And very sweet things, they feel very good, but if you eat too much, they are not good. They will destroy our body. So we see duality. And then we have all material desires, hankering for sense gratification, great contamination in this world. So these are dirty things in the heart. There are many lists of dirty things in the heart, all bad qualities like hatred. So these are contaminations in the heart. The bhakta is always cleaning and polishing. So what should a new devotee do? And not just a new devotee, all devotees in general. We should always be cleaning. One should not avoid cleaning. And cleaning externally also helps cleansing the mind. Because we are engaging in devotional service. We are cleansing Krishna's kitchen, Krishna's temple, Krishna's everything, Krishna's house. We are cleaning. So a new bhakta is always engaged in cleaning and polishing. What do we polish? What do we polish? The shoes? No. The paraphernalia. Yes, Krishna's paraphernalia. If we are maintaining a little altar, whatever we use, the Achman cup, the bell, it should be polished, it should be cleaned, it should shine. So, in this way, freeing himself from the accumulation of dust by the practice of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, for internal cleanliness, this is the polishing. How do we polish? Polishing means you get rid of the dust, you get rid of the oxidation. All the metals, they oxidate and then they turn darkish in color. So by polishing physically, we remove these things, and then the original state of the metal becomes apparent, and it's so beautiful. I remember one time I was in the Himalayas, in Ladakh, I think, and I went to a local house. The kitchen was so beautiful. It was all copper. Instead of steel, it was copper, and it was shining like anything. So we keep things on the external platform, we polish whatever the metals are, but internally the polishing is done with mantra. When we chant Hare Krishna, we are actually polishing, and we are removing the contamination of material desires, of the vision of duality, of the attachment to the material body. This is the polishing which is happening when we are chanting Hare Krishna. One more thing we will read before we proceed further. There are times when it is not possible to keep the body clean due to external conditions such as sickness or traveling. But external conditions need not keep the mind from being clean. We can and should always keep our internal purity, regardless of external conditions. So, the most important is not to keep just the body clean. The most important is to keep the mind clean. And we said we clean the mind by chanting. And therefore, we can chant, as we know, there are no rules and regulations for chanting. No rules and regulations pertaining to cleanliness, for example, or the time. Sometimes also we say time is a purifier, but there are also times which are considered contaminated or less auspicious, and times which are more auspicious. So the devotees become expert at using everything and always acting for purification. So even if we haven't taken bath, even if we have just returned from the burning ghat or burning place, still we should chant Hare Krishna. We should, the internal purification does not depend on the external purification. It does not depend on it. It is independent and it is primary. We should always keep ourselves clean internally. One more quote by Srila Prabhupada. If you remain unclean within the heart, Prabhupada says, simply washing your external body and cleansing your cloth is not complete cleanliness. That may be called hygienic, but real cleanliness is internal and external. After all, how can we approach Krishna the purest when we have things like lust, avarice, means greed, and envy in our heart? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mad, Matsarya, the 6 enemies of the mind. These are unclean things within our heart. And so we are concerned with internal cleanliness primarily, even though we give so much stress on external cleanliness, because it is helpful. It will help us keep clean internally. But we should always remember that it is useless to have taken a bath and at the same time be meditating on some sinful activity. What is the use? So one is clean truly when one is cleaned internally. And then external cleanliness is also required for certain types of activities and in general. So for external cleanliness, how do we become contaminated? We said by touch. Touch means association. And so the internal contamination also happens by touch, but not physical touch. It happens in association. So therefore, asatsanga tyaga a Vaishnav achar. That Vaishnavas should be very careful with their association. And the association has 2 aspects. One is the association which is in the field of Shruti. What means Shruti? Shruti means usually that which we hear. But here it applies to everything that we take in through our senses. The ahar means whatever comes in. So we can, the contamination of our mind can happen through hearing. We are hearing some gossip. So immediately contamination is occurring. But also we are seeing something sinful. So what will happen when we see something sinful? The sinful desire will take root in the heart. Remember the story of who? Very famous person, Ajamil, who was innocent person. He went to pick flowers to offer in puja, and he saw something unholy. And his whole life was destroyed. So we should be very careful, because in this age, this is very common. It is a sinful age, and it is very easy to see unholy things, that we should avoid that. So Shruti means this, that which comes through the ears, that which, or we hear some filmy song, something about romance, and then it enters and it starts roaming in the mind. And then you are thinking about something which is unholy. So whatever comes through the ear, whatever comes through the eyes, we should be careful where our eyes are looking. In the world itself, we should always control the eyes. Who was that person who plucked his eyes, actually destroyed his eyes? What was his name? Bilva Mangal. Bilva Mangal Thakur. Somehow or other, Bilva Mangal Thakur, he had attraction for beautiful ladies. And he couldn't help it somehow. And his attraction was mostly through the eyes. He was looking, he couldn't help it to see. And as soon as he would see, immediately whoop, he would be attracted. So what he did at some point, poked his eyes. So very dangerous. The eyes are very dangerous. And so the ears, the eyes, also in the scriptures it is said that one should not smell bad smells. One should not enjoy bad smells. This also contaminates. It brings us in the lower modes of nature. Things which are very unholy. The smells that are coming from garbage, the smells that are coming from the lower gates of the body. Now, all these things should not keep them out. because they are in the lower modes of material nature. So they will bring the consciousness down. We can contaminate our consciousness even by touch. Therefore, it is said that the Vaishnavas, they dress very simply and they do not live opulently in general. Because sometimes some cloth you buy, oh, it is so soft. And it arouses the mood of enjoyment. So subtle. How this can be? That the enjoying spirit has entered through the sense of touch. Oh, it's so soft. And then you enter in a mood of enjoyment. So all the senses are to be watched. What are they coming in touch with? But then there is another way that we can, so this is association. We associate with some object, some things which are unholy. But there is also another way of contamination. Not only there are two worlds, right? External and internal. So we get contaminated by the external environment, but we also get contaminated by the internal environment, our own. We have so many old sanskaras, we have so many memories, we have whatever we have seen, experienced, it's all inside. So we have to be careful of the contamination of smriti. External contamination is shruti. It comes through the senses. But internal contamination, it is called smriti. By the agency of smriti. What are we thinking of? You see somebody sometimes sitting somewhere. Is that person inactive? No. Inactive externally, but active internally. And this internal activity, it cannot be stopped. The soul is an active entity. It is life. It is always active. And therefore, we always have the choice to be active materially or to be active spiritually. Therefore, a devotee is always engaged in remembering the holy name, in remembering the Shastra, in remembering Krishna, thinking about service. Therefore, service engagement is so important for the devotees, because especially in neophyte stage, we cannot always be chanting. We cannot always be thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna. Can we? No, we cannot always be thinking. But what we can be thinking about? Seva. We can engage all our thinking, feeling, willing. We can engage all our thinking, feeling, willing in seva. Then we are safe. Because if the mind is not thinking of seva, it will think of karma. And if we are unlucky, it will even think of vikarma. Something is called daydreaming. You know, daydreaming? Daydreaming. In the night, you dream. That is uncontrollable. It's just the mind is roaming in the night. But during the day, people also dream. That is daydreaming. Especially if some sinful thought has come in the mind, some sinful desire is somehow coming, then the mind starts dreaming. And as it is said, the mangoes taste better in the mind. In the mind amplifies what the enjoyment is about. And you think, so great, I got to get it. So great. But when you actually engage in the acts of enjoyment, whatever they may be, it's not that great. It wasn't that great. But in the mind, oh, it looks so good. So this daydreaming is you say a practice which has to be abandoned. As soon as the mind starts roaming somewhere, immediately take a book, start reading, take your japamala, start chanting. So start hearing. So the roaming of the mind can be very, very dangerous. It can take us in the past, it can take us to sinful corners. So this is called smriti, remembering. Remembering things which are not Krishna. Remembering the material world. So it is not useful, and also it is dangerous. It can be dangerous. So these two associations are there through Shruti and through Smriti. We have to beware of both of them. Therefore, it is said we are like walking on the razor's edge. On one side, there is all the external environment. Woo! Don't go there. On the other side, there is all the internal contamination which lives with us. Woo! Don't go there. Walk straight. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Shri Nishingadev ki jai. Om Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. How dangerous. We are surrounded. But we don't realize sometimes. We think, oh, everything is okay. Is it okay? No. Oof. We are walking on a very thin line, and contamination is all around, inside, outside. So, Srila Prabhupada defines ultimate cleanliness. One is considered pure internally when he is free from the pollution of false pride. Or egotism means like the identification as the body in one sense, but it's mostly the identification as the master, as the enjoyer. We must become free from that. And bhakti is all about becoming the servant of the servant. This is bhakti. And this means that this is the ultimate cleansing, the ultimate purification, to be free from false understanding of our own self. We are, first of all, not this body, and we are servants of Krishna. And that position of servant cannot be changed. This is the purity of our consciousness when we have a service attitude. And therefore, advancement in Krishna consciousness is not referring to how austere we are, how knowledgeable we are. This is not real advancement in Krishna consciousness. People may be renounced, they may be austere, they may be very knowledgeable, but what is actually purity is service attitude, service mood, humility, meekness. This is the purity of the soul. This is the purity of the mind. So these concepts are the Vaishnava concepts. And it's the highest concept in the world. Usually a person who is meek and humble in the world is just trampled on. But actually to be meek and humble is the greatest glory. So internal dirt, many things are there, as we heard, starting with this false identification. And the 6 enemies of the mind are there. Material desires are there. This morning we were chanting na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam. We don't want these things. They are anartha. Anartha. Artha means something which is valuable. And a means no, not valuable. These things which are unwanted. So sin in general, unwanted. bad qualities, the enemies of the mind, offenses that we commit, the 10 offenses to the holy name, the offenses to the holy Dham, all these things, they are contaminations. And as long as we are contaminated, we cannot see Krishna. We cannot be completely in his shelter. So we have to shed these things. And the whole process of Krishna consciousness is a process of cleansing, how to become clean. We have become contaminated, how to become clean. So the main contaminating agent is an unclean person, a contaminated person. Like Prabhupada said, how do you, if you want to become a drunkard, what should you do? Associate with a drunkard. Very easy. Just associate with a drunkard, you will get all his bad habits. So anyone who is sinful, anyone who is offensive. Prabhupada said, just by seeing that person, already it is contaminating. What to speak of contemplating on that person? That is contaminating. And next thing is to have a dealing with that person, an exchange. Have exchanges with that person. And when it comes to exchanging, means personal exchanges and affectionate exchanges, bring the person close to one's heart. That is very dangerous. So the main principles for the Vaishnavas is that we do not associate. When we see contamination somewhere, we stay away from it. The very advanced, very, very advanced Vaishnavas, they are like the sun. When they come close to a contaminated person, that person becomes cleansed. Like anybody who comes in touch with the spiritual master, initially comes with all load of contamination. But by serving the spiritual master, by following the instructions of the spiritual master, by taking darshan of the spiritual master, what happens? After some time, the person becomes clean. And the spiritual master does not become contaminated by accepting all these impure persons. But for those who are neophytes, and even for those who are madhyamas, it is good to stay away from contamination, because subtle contamination is much more difficult to get rid of than gross contamination. Gross contamination, you take a bath over, but subtle contamination, once it has entered, it took 1 second to enter, but to take out, it may take several lifetimes. So we should be very careful. So nowadays, there was a research many, many years ago in the Western world that at some point in time, the government, this was in the US, at some point in time, there was a specific year, 1 year, the next year, and the next year, that suddenly the government had to build jails. In any country, there is a certain number of jails for those who are, somehow are harmful for the society. And there's like a certain, proportion of the population that goes astray to the point that they have to be isolated in a jail. But then at a certain point, suddenly, the proportion of sinners increased so much that the government had to get busy building jails, building so many jails, building jails. And the people who were put into these jails were young, teenagers. The actually proportion of teenage crime was growing and growing and growing and growing. So immediately the sociologists started doing what? Study what's happening. Mhm. They were called. Then they found out what has happened. That 15 years before, television was invented. Television was invented and people started buying televisions. And those who were in jail today, they were grown up with the television. What did they learn from the television? They learned sinful life. So we should be very aware of this. And nowadays, of course, television is an ancient thing. Nowadays, we have internet, we have phones, we have so many computers, we have so many gadgets, and the film industry is very prolific. Millions of films are being produced all over the world, and millions of people are watching them. If they weren't watching them, nobody would produce them. And these films are all depicting mundane life in all its various aspects. And there is a lot of stress on depicting sinful activities, sinful life, killing, stealing, raping, all sorts of illicit activities, cheating. This is all very nicely presented in the movies. So, as devotees, we should be very well aware that if we want to progress in Krishna consciousness, we have to put a cross on watching these things, because they will only it's like an elephant bath. It's like an elephant bath. You're chanting Hare Krishna, you're taking prasadam, you're seeing the deity, you're serving. So this is the cleansing process. You're cleansing and cleansing and cleansing. You're doing your internal cleansing. And then the next thing is you turn on the movie. And what are you doing at that time? You are bringing in dirt, contamination. You are becoming contaminated again. So, and not only contaminated, very contaminated. Because you may have a more or less pious mind. A pious mind doesn't think about sin. But after watching, you will think. Something that you could never invent on your own, you will find it in the movie. And these will implant seeds in the subtle body, which one day will manifest. How they will manifest? Oh, well, they will manifest in the gross body. Your gross body, like Ajamil's body, will start doing things that you never planned before. So, what to speak of taking birth again to fulfill all the desires that you have picked from all these things. So sometimes we are not completely convinced, aware about that. But films are very, very dangerous. They are the plan of Kali. This is the way that Kali is taking everybody to hell. And you may say, oh, I don't watch films, I watch entertainment. There are many entertainments, sports, and singing, and all kinds of who knows what thing. Oh, yeah, watch animals. Interesting, no? You will go to, oh, how cute, how cute, how cute. Next birth. Very dangerous, very dangerous. This is contemplation. Contemplation. So, no, we are not here to watch animals. No, 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 no. Ah, like in general, it is not advised. Prabhupada did not advise keeping a pet because we become affectionate to the pet. And then at the time of death, we'll remember the pet. So, watching this kind of thing, entertainment means you cultivate the enjoying spirit. You enjoy, you just enjoy. Instead of thinking of Krishna, you're just enjoying. Then the sports also, this is a kind of entertainment, but so rude and very dirty nowadays. All paid people, all mafia, all so many things are going on. And so much pride. You can see the egos, very ugly actually. And then there is the advertising, also very dangerous. The advertising is produced by psychologists, people who have studied psychology. And instead of helping people as doctors, they are cheating them by using the psychology, the knowledge of psychology, to see how they will be captured by certain products. So they use it like that. So it is very dangerous for us. We catch all sorts of material desires like this. Other contaminating things are philosophies and hearing unrestrictedly. Once we have come in touch with a bona fide sampradaya, our duty is to be faithful and chaste to our sampradaya, is to be chasteful and faithful to the spiritual master, and to hear those teachings only. Those teachings are perfect. Many people in the past have realized the truth by following those teachings. Why not us? Why we have to go everywhere? Why we have to hear from everywhere? Why we have to try this one, that one, this one, that one, and mix the knowledge which has so purely descended through the Guru Parampara with other pieces of knowledge from other paramparas, which may be bona fide, unbona fide. When we are very, very, very advanced and we are studying Bhakti Sarvabhauma, that's the last of the levels of study that Prabhupada has given. At that time, once we know perfectly our own philosophy, then we can also study other sampradayas. But before that, there is no need. There is no need to hear everywhere and make kichari. And then when you will preach, when you will teach, you will actually damage the sampradaya instead of serving the sampradaya. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains that how the Guru Parampara became broken, that Krishna had to speak it again to Arjuna. And time again, Krishna comes and he speaks the knowledge again. Why did he had to speak it again? Because the Guru Parampara was broken. And Prabhupada said, not that there was nobody there, but the teachings had become twisted. So this is what happens when we hear left and right. We mix whatever we hear with Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And instead of serving him and serving the Guru Parampara, we are actually damaging. So we should be very careful not to become contaminated. Srila Prabhupada has given everything in his books. Each and every disciple must have this simple faith. Must have that faith. Look at Srila Prabhupada himself. He learned from his own spiritual master. He became an empowered world acharya. So many of Prabhupada's disciples have also become acharyas, gurus. So they didn't do so by hearing left and right. They did it by focusing on the knowledge coming through the Guru Parampara. So we should not contaminate our mind with various philosophies. hearing from different sources. The highest contamination in this world also can come by associating with the opposite sex, or unfortunately, in this age of Kali, sometimes the same gender as well. And there is a high contamination in this field, in this age. So there is a recommendation that is given in the Shastra that one should be well behaved. One should be very well behaved. And one should not associate with the opposite sex. And if one has a tendency to enjoy the same gender, then one should also be very careful in one's association. What is done, we cannot undo. If somebody has developed a tendency which is not the regular one that's planned by Lord Brahma, whatever is done. But illicit association is a ruin for human beings in general, and especially for a sadhaka. That kind of contamination, when the mind becomes filled with lust and the mind becomes attracted to another person, one should take immediate refuge. One should shout out. One should reach out to someone. One should speak up. One should not keep it a secret. This kind of attraction is very destructive for our spiritual life. And we should immediately speak to someone in confidence and reveal our mind. As soon as this is called guhyam akyati prichati. So guhyam prichati, that we have to tell someone so that we find protection. We need protection because Navadvip, he was identified too late. So this is something that one should keep in mind. Whenever the mind becomes disturbed, especially with lust, one should not remain alone with it. Because lust is the greatest weapon of Maya, the greatest contaminating agent. And so one should not remain alone with it. Because when we say me and lust, we mean me and Maya. So how much do I weigh next to Maya? Maya means the total material energy. How big is that? We cannot even think. Krishna is like uncommensurable, it is said. We cannot measure Krishna. But similarly, his material energy, we don't know its limits. So powerful. So powerful. And we are nobody in front of the material energy. Therefore, in order to advance from neophyte to madhyam, and this guyamakyati prichati is very, very much required in the process of cleansing the internal body. And therefore, everyone must have friends, mentors, guides, and to whom one can reveal one's mind. And this is very important for internal cleansing. Okay, well, we have gone over time, so I will just mention that food also contaminates the mind. Food contaminates the mind. It's one of the ways that contamination will come in. What kind of food? Unoffered food. Unoffered food is simply matter. So it will make our consciousness dull. And food which has been cooked by someone whose mind is contaminated, that also will affect us. An angry person cooks the food, we won't be able to digest. An angry person cooks the food, we will become angry. A passionate person cooks the food, we will also be contaminated by the mode of passion. So the first instruction we all get when we become devotees is eat only prasadam, which has been cooked by devotees, offered to Krishna. And beware of eating here and there, because the food contaminates the mind. It brings in the mentality of the person who has cooked. And so non-devotee's mind is full of all contamination. And just as the main contaminating agent is an impure person, the main purifying agent is a devotee. Just by seeing a devotee, our consciousness becomes purified. So we should associate with the devotees, chant, practice all the angas of bhakti, take prasadam, and Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for hearing this presentation. I hope that you have gathered some. We heard you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Ah, very good, very good, very good. Thank you. We need sweets. Yes, Anjan.
Question that sometimes it happens that when we are going to prepare some food and some non-devotee person comes and desire to help for cooking. So will it be allowed that non-devotee person to help the cooking of food for the Lord?
Well, yes and no. This would not be allowed in the deity kitchen, for example, where the standard as it depends on the purpose. So in the deity kitchen, you will not allow somebody like that. But sometimes, for the purpose, for the welfare of that person, you may allow that person, if you are just cooking at home or you are doing something, just to engage that person. Because by being engaged in devotional service, that person will become purified. What you have to do during that time is that you have to keep his mind busy. You have to talk to him about Krishna. You have to tell him what to do, give him instructions. You don't let his mind do smriti. You don't let him be in his sinful mind. You help him by making him focus on the duty, put on some lecture, some kirtan, like that. When Srila Prabhupada first started, he had to engage people, in this. We heard even of Yamuna Mataji, who first was helping Srila Prabhupada. In the middle said, Prabhupada, can I go smoke a cigarette? So, but what she became, she got a samadhi in Vrindavan in the end. And so, for the sake of engaging people, but then we have to control their consciousness. Okay? Yes?
You mentioned about external cleanliness. So here in Vrindavan, externally, when we see the Dham, there is a lot of external contamination, drainage, and other things that we see. So, but we also hear that the Vrindavan Dham is like very potent. So my question is here, when we look from the external perspective, are the modes present then, lower modes present if there is no external cleanliness here in the Dham?
It is said that, first of all, we are not seeing the Dham. We are seeing the covering over the Dham. It is said this is the Mayik Vrindavan, that we are seeing the covering over the Dham. So there is a very thin layer of covering over the Dham, which involves all the manifestation of the three modes and all. And most of the people, they live in that covering only. It is only with a purified mind that we can enter the real Vrindavan. And when you enter the Vrindavan, what means Vrindavan? Vrindavan means you think of Krishna. You are engaged in Krishna's service. Then only you are in Vrindavan. Otherwise, you are not in Vrindavan. So we should be careful to give too much attention to the external aspect of Vrindavan, because it is confusing. How can Vrindavan be like this? But it's not Vrindavan. Vrindavan is hidden place. Gupta is a hidden place. It is revealed only to the devotees, to those who are practicing. Like we went to Tekadamba. Was it Vrindavan? Yes, there. We were in a different dimension. How did we get in that dimension? Because we were constantly worshipping. We were thinking of Rupa Goswami. We were thinking of Prabhupada. We were thinking of Krishna Balaram. We were chanting the holy name. So at that point, we were not in the external covering of Vrindavan. We started entering the layers of Vrindavan. We could feel the presence of Krishna Balaram. So, like that. But the external covering, it is there.
And Mataji, you mentioned time is also one of the purifying agents. But it is also said that generally time deteriorates things, especially when it comes to material things. They deteriorate.
Ah.
And also when it comes to relationships, we tend to forget time, also we forget as time passes. So I was trying to understand how it is like, can you help me understand how it is purifying agent?
It has different functions, and time has different functions, and one is purifying. That by time you can experience it. No, by time you forget things, like the emotions that may have been very intense, they reduce. So this is by the effect of time. So time is definitely a purifier. We have that experience, and as I said, even physical things, if they are left for a long time on their own, they are considered clean, because for such a long time, it has not been used like that. So in that sense, time is a purifier. Like, for example, even there will be sometime, maybe some class on patience. What is patience? Patience involves the science of time. That you are being stimulated by something, internal or external, and if you are impatient, you explode immediately, you react immediately. But those who are patient, they are capable of waiting. They know this science, that if you react immediately, it will be a strong reaction. But if you wait and you are patient, then you will deal with things peacefully. So this is the effect of time. It helps us. It works for us. Time is also the destroyer of the world. So that's another function. It destroys everything. All right, so we stop here. It's already late. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for hearing. And I hope that you caught something from this class, this presentation on cleanliness. Yes? No? Yes. So this is very practical. So please apply it in your life, and teach it to others also. This is something that needs to be taught. So
Suppose in Vinas Shastra, some of the family somebody can death condition. So that period like 10 days or 13 days. So whether as if we are initiated as Brahmanas, we can do directly or not?
yeah, usually you cannot stop your vows. And I said also last time that those who are Vaishnavas, they observe very shorter contamination periods. I don't know if you were there last time I spoke about this. These long contamination periods is because people become very, very affected by death, and all sorts of happening in the families. They become so affected. They come under the modes of nature. Uh, they overflow with emotions and all. And so they are considered, unclean, contaminated. But for a Vaishnava, what is the contamination? Somebody has, left the body. It's always positive. It's either, vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya. That person was so old, suffering, good, he moved on, or maybe that person has gone back to Godhead, that is also good. So where is the contamination here? Maybe there is a little bit of separation that you feel for a day or two in that sense, but otherwise, for us, the understanding is very different. So we do not get that affected as Vaishnavas. So we said for Vaishnavas, if at all there is to observe anything, it is not more than 3 days. After that, everything is back to normal. All these rules and regulations apply specifically to those who are not Krishna conscious and who are completely under the illusion of material life. And then they become very, very much affected. I was rehearing some time ago, I don't remember, I think it was somebody, Madhuri Garai was telling me of a lady who, it was something little different. But for Vaishnavas, everything is very different, You deliver the baby and the next day you are back serving in the temple because there is no pujari anyway. And so you have to serve. So one day you deliver the baby, the next day you are worshipping the Lord because, you are not affected. So like that. But yeah, life of the devotees is very different because our perspective is very, very different. It is so different. We look like we are doing the same things as other people. We are cleaning, we are cooking, we are marrying, we are doing all these things, but it's very different. Very, very different. And one should always, emphasize the remembrance of Krishna. That's all. Emphasize chanting, emphasize the remembrance of Krishna. Then everything will be peaceful. So we better stop here because it's getting late and there are other classes and programs after that. So thank you so much. Please take advantage of all the knowledge that you are getting here and advance in your spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.